Skinamarink. If you don't know about this movie, I don't blame you. It's gotten huge on social media because of how strange it is. It's really kind of throwing the horror world for a loop and shaking up the standards of the genre. It was shown at Fantasia, which happens here in Montreal every year. It's a big movie festival and left people shocked. Um, and it's something that I want to talk about because I saw it recently, and oh my god, man, it's tough. But this movie really got to me because it's all atmosphere. The whole thing, like, let me give a little bit of context behind this movie. It's an indie film that came out last month, I think, on a budget of $15,000. So 15K. This guy, Kyle something, Kyle Bell, I think his name is. He made this movie, and it ended up making $2 million at the box office, which is huge. It's in the same vein as the Mandela Catalog. If you guys are on YouTube, there's a subgenre of horror happening right now called analog horror, and it's basically the idea of using technology that's only recently been outdated, like VHS, camcorders, that kind of stuff, um, and using horror elements through that. So the movie, like, if I could compare it to anything, it would probably be uh, the Blair Witch Project. And maybe I've heard it compared to Paranormal Activity. Admittedly, I haven't seen Paranormal Activity. I know the general gist of it and the influence that it's had, but I have seen Blair Witch and I'm a fan of Blair Witch, uh, and I can understand the similarities that it has with this movie. Um, it it's funny because this movie is so expertly crafted in like atmosphere, and it really lacks plot. Like, I've shown Blair Witch to a couple of my friends, and the main gripe that they have with it is that, oh well, nothing happens in the movie. Like, nothing happens, right? And I get that, right? It's them running around to the woods to get camcorder or whatever, and like it's just yelling. Compared to Blair Witch, this movie is like watching paint dry. Nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. But I was still like stressed at every moment because it's the slowest burn. It's almost the closest thing that I've seen to it is Hereditary, and I'm not saying that it's nearly as good as Hereditary. Um because Hereditary to me is a classic. But it really makes you wait for those moments. Like, the movie's about I want to say an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, and most of it is establishing shots and tension builders and like looking at corners or close-ups. Like, you don't actually see anything. Um so if you're a fan of like slasher movies, for example, I can't imagine you'd be able to sit through this movie. It's really uh it's slow. It makes you wait for it. Um and I think it would have benefited from, yeah, you see a bit of the kids, but even the kids you don't really see that much of them. I think the most you see is what's his name? Kevin. You see Kevin's head for a bit, but like that's about it, you know? Um I just think this movie would have benefited a little bit more from having a more fleshed out plot. As a short on YouTube, this works, but I would have liked to have a little bit more dialogue from the kids. I understand they're 4 and 6 years old, but just to see them sort of thinking out loud, I think would have really brought this up another level. Um, but overall, if you've watched, analog horror start to grow and develop on YouTube, this is this is where it's at. um, yeah. So the Honey Boy review for Skinamarink is, I'm gonna say 6 out of 10. I'm gonna say 6 out of 10. Cause when it's scary, it's scary. But even when it is, even in those like peak moments, it just doesn't quite deliver. It's still like tense. You're kind of you kind of come out of those tense moments going, "Oh, well that wasn't so bad." So yeah, I'd say 6 out of 10. That's my review.